this is what will set you apart from other vendors, other partners, is these small, thoughtful touches with the client. As a former teacher, I don't believe that you have to sacrifice your purpose in order to get paid. If anybody deserves to be a millionaire, it's an educator. I'm Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas, and you're listening to Seven Figure Educator. Welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figure Educator podcast. My name's Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas. I'm a former teacher, former principal, Harvard grad turned full-time entrepreneur, CEO and founder of EJT Education Group, and I'm your host. During this episode, we are going to talk all about how do you create a high ticket experience and a high ticket offer or program. So I wanted to have this conversation because it sounds great to have a high ticket offer, right? And when I say high ticket offer, I define a high ticket offer as anything that is above $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and up. So I'm not talking about a 5K offer. I'm not talking about a 2K offer. We're talking a 5-figure investment that someone's making to work with you, a 6-figure investment that someone is making to work with you. And as I'm sharing these pieces, this applies to whether you're a B2C or a B2B model. When someone's making a significant investment to work with you, there's an additional level of intentionality that you want to approach that experience with that is going to position that client to be wowed and want to continue to work with you. Let's kind of first just set the stage of why we want to have this additional level of intentionality when it comes to creating a high ticket experience for a high ticket client. I think there is some perception in the marketplace that you can just slap a number on an offer without really being thoughtful of, well, how does that experience differ than someone who is in a lower ticket offer? So how does a 30K offer experience differ from someone who's in a 3K offer experience? The experience should be different, right? And you can have a program that has a curriculum. You can have, a embedded course or something within the 30K offer. But really what's going to make the difference is the experience that you're offering to that person. This might be a little controversial in some parts of the internet for folks who are just telling you to just charge your worth or charge, put a comma to it and add in zero, but they're not actually breaking down, well, how does that actually shift the experience that you should be providing to that particular client? And for me, as someone who has high ticket offers, who has enrolled and engaged in high ticket offers, I've had the experience of what it looks like to feel high ticket and what it looks like to pay high ticket and not feel high ticket, right? And there's been certain experiences that I've had that have really reflected back to me the essence of a high ticket experience. And let me share with you what those experiences are, because I think first, before we can have this conversation, I think it's really critical that if you want to offer a high ticket experience, that you actually engage in market research around what a high ticket experience feels like. And the only way to do that is that you've got to get into a high ticket experience yourself to actually be able to do some market research around what that might look like in your business to provide a high ticket experience to clients. So let me share with you a couple of ways that even in my own personal life and professional life that I've been able to do this type of market research. So the first one is join a high ticket program, right? I personally think it's out of alignment to offer a high ticket program and you yourself have not invested in a high ticket program. That's thing number one is, if you're going to be charging a 30K offer, have you spent 30K? Have you joined a 30K program if you are going to charge someone else a 30K program? That's the first piece of market research is, are you yourself engaged in high ticket programs or a high ticket offer to really be able to conduct that market research of how has this program, how has this offer really provided an elevated experience? I know you're listening to this episode, and if you felt like you found your community, well, I want you to take the next step to join our community on Facebook. I have a free Facebook group, other Black education consultants just like you, and we're talking about proposals, we're talking about the next opportunity. People are collaborating and finding contracts together. It's an amazing, beautiful space that we've been able to curate, and I want to invite you to join. So go ahead and click the link in the show notes to be able to request to join my Facebook group, and I look forward to engaging with you there. The second piece of market research that I've engaged in, and I'm consistently taking notes around what that experience was like, how it was different to be able to apply those lessons to my business, is staying at a 5-star hotel. And because a 5-star hotel, they center the client experience, they center really thoughtful details that make a difference. There's a difference between a 5-star hotel and a 4-star hotel, and that biggest difference is going to be the client experience. And again, I think it is out of alignment to provide a high ticket experience and you have not experienced a high ticket experience, right? And I think it's some of the best market research to visit a 5-star property and to stay at a 5-star property to have a vision of what a 5-star experience looks like. Another example would be going to a Michelin-starred or fine dining experience. You are going to immediately observe the difference in service. There's attention to detail, the way they fold the napkins, the way they time each one of your courses, the way they greet you, the way that they're thoughtful about service to where they're minimizing wait time because they want to be so thoughtful around the client experience that most of the time they are likely not doing walk-ins because they are scheduling every single reservation to a point to where people don't have to wait. They shouldn't have to wait, right? Because that impacts the client experience. And then third and finally, it could be engaging at a spa at a 5-star property. So you could do a staycation at a 5-star property, or even if you just go to the spa at a 5-star property, you're going to start to notice these different experiences in terms of how they curate an intentional client experience. Even down to the napkins or the towels in the bathroom, they're really thoughtful around the quality of these small little details. I've been to 5-star properties, and the moment I step into the lobby, there's a unique, distinctive scent that now starts to awaken your senses, and you start to create memories to that scent and that location, where now we've created an intentional experience that now we can connect our senses to a location, right? Things like that are such thoughtful details that you can actually take that lesson and apply it to your business. So let me share with you a couple of strategies that you can leverage in your business. I've leveraged in my business, I've experimented with in terms of how to create a high ticket experience for a client. When we think about the stages and phases of the client journey, we have the kind of client onboarding, we have the client delivery, and we have the client offboarding. And I think it's really thoughtful to think about what are the unique details at each phase of that client experience that you can maximize to really create a high ticket experience. So what within client onboarding could you really leverage to be able to create a high ticket experience? And what's really, really meaningful about the client onboarding process is the first 90 days of a client experience sets the tone for the entire relationship. So you really, really want to be thoughtful with how you're onboarding clients. And here's a couple ways that you can create a high ticket, high touch experience. So the first is a new client gift. So as clients enroll, what could it look like to actually send them some type of gift that shows your appreciation and excitement to be able to work with them? And there's a variety of ways that you could go about doing this, where it could be flowers, it could be a fruit basket, an edible arrangement. I've seen some people even take this in a really thoughtful way of where the gift actually aligns to the service. So I had one particular partner that I had signed on to work with to create a new revenue stream in my business. And the new client gift they sent me was a money tree. So how thoughtful is that? Is we're getting ready to build out a new profit center, a new revenue stream in the business. And the new client gift was a money tree. So thoughtful, so incredibly thoughtful. If you are a Black entrepreneur and you are looking for a playground to be able to grow your business and receive a roadmap for building a 7-figure education consulting business, I want to personally invite you to my upcoming 5-day business school. You're going to have the opportunity to spend 5 days with me, and I'm going to break down my blueprint for helping you grow a 7-figure education consulting business. I'm going to teach you my 7-figure sales process. I'm going to teach you how to develop your offers. We'll talk about pricing. And my goal by the end of the 5 days is that you make money, which means I'm going to help you identify 5 people in your network that you can begin pitching by the end of our 5 days. So there's no excuse, because guess what? It's completely free. I want you to go ahead, head to the link in the show notes to sign up and join me at my next B-School. I'll see you there. The second type of experience or second strategy that you could leverage in the onboarding phase is a one-on-one onboarding call. So going back to this idea that the first 90 days of a client experience is so critical and it sets the tone for the entire relationship. The last thing you want is for people to be confused on how to engage with you, how to work with you, how to log on to something, how to access anything, all these really small logistical details. You need to have an intentional way to be able to address in the first 90 days. And a one-on-one onboarding call, whether it's 15 minutes or 30 minutes, I would say no more than 30 minutes, but a 15 to 30 minute onboarding call one-on-one with that person as soon as they sign on will make sure that you have the time to properly welcome them. You have the opportunity to go through any logistical information. If they need login information for something, if they have to know how to access something, if they have to schedule anything, that's the time to be able to cross all those T's and dot those I's, so that way you can start that experience strong. Because how many times has a client enrolled in an experience or signed up for an offer and there's so much friction in the beginning because they don't know how to log on to something, and now it's 3 months since they decide to work with you and they've either never logged on to something or never scheduled their first call, or you have to go back and forth with dates. If it's a PD, you have to go back and forth with scheduling. What would it look like to have that onboarding or kickoff call where you just knock all of that out and you're setting yourself up for a strong start? So now let's think about what are some of those special touches that you could have in the client delivery phase. So we've already onboarded the client and now we're kicking off the work to be able to work together. The first piece is, what does it look like to be able to position your entire team to memorize names and details of particular clients? This lesson I got when I actually stayed at a Four Seasons property in Bali. So I was one day went to brunch on a Sunday at the resort. I happened to mention to my waiter that I didn't like coconut. I wasn't a fan of coconut, and there were a lot of dishes with coconut. And the next day, I was at dinner at the property, and a completely different waiter came to my table and said, "Miss Jordan Thomas, it was brought to my attention that you're not a fan of coconut. I just want to flag for you that these dishes have coconut in it." And so I thought it was such a fascinating, thoughtful, small but thoughtful high touch that on 2 different occasions, on 2 separate days, 2 of the staff members at the property had a detail that I had communicated, and they had a back-end communication system to share those small details with one another. And so what would it look like for you to create some type of communication system internally with your team that if one team member finds out a small but powerful detail, they can communicate it to another team member, so that way everybody's positioned to best be a support and to serve that particular client. The second option that you could think through during the client delivery phase, which seems small, but it's really thoughtful, is food options. So if you are providing any type of food options at any type of in-person or virtual experiences, maybe you decide to cater lunch for a client or a group of clients, I would be really thoughtful around the food options that you select, because I've never seen a boxed lunch at a 5-star property. I know it is often the cheapest route, but when I'm a high ticket client or I'm engaged in a high priced offer, I'm expecting a level of thoughtfulness in the engagement. There are certain ways that you can provide this experience and budget it on the front end of the offer. This is why pricing and how you price is so important. But if I am enrolled in a high ticket experience, I need more than a box lunch. I don't want to show up to a $5 box lunch, right? So thinking through what are the ways in which you can show people how you appreciate them and how you value them simply by the food that you decide to offer, right? When it comes to dietary restrictions, right? Like, what are the ways in which you're learning all these small details about people to be able to incorporate that into the experience? I've had clients who are allergic to tomatoes, right? So if we know that, we might have intentionally make decisions around food options to avoid that item, or we might have a personalized lunch for them, right? It's things like that where people want to know that they're thought of, that their needs are centered. I know you're enjoying this episode, but I wanted to pop in really quickly to make sure that you know about my event, Seven Figure Educator Live. It is the only event for Black educators who have a vision of a seven-figure education consulting business, and they are ready to make that vision a reality. You have the opportunity to spend 3 days in person with me and my team in Atlanta, Georgia, and I guarantee this is a transformative experience you do not want to miss. So to grab your ticket, you're gonna need to head to sevenfigureeducator.com. Again, that's the number 7figureeducator.com, and grab your ticket before the price goes up. The link is also in the show notes. Go ahead and click, and I'll see you there. And then the last strategy in the delivery stage is, how are you personalizing your communication in between those established formal touch points? So whether it is you have a coaching client and you do monthly coaching calls, what does it look like between the coaching calls? What does the communication look like? What does the relationship look like between the calls? And I have found that the most meaningful communication is one that allows people to be seen. So whether it's, I saw an article and I thought about you and I wanted to send the article your way, whether it's, I saw you posted on social media, this amazing thing happened and I just wanted to send a personal note of congratulations, or if someone doesn't show up to something or you notice that they're missing from an engagement or from an event, like check on them. Right? Like particularly for my folks who have coaching programs or group coaching programs, and you might have a cadence related to calls. If you see someone isn't there, like reach out and check in on them, right? That's a part of that high ticket and high touch experience, is you notice when someone is missing, like you notice when they're not there, and being able to reach out to check in on folks. And then lastly, let's talk about the client offboarding experience. How could you make that a really, really thoughtful touch point? And ideally, we want folks to renew, right? Where we're doing certain intentional actions to be able to provide the offer for clients to continue to engage in working with us. And here's the thing, when you're really thoughtful around these touch points, it makes the decision to renew easier, right? Because people feel in community, people feel honored, they feel as if they belong. It actually helps with that renewal decision. And if folks make the decision for one reason or another to not renew, there's a way to be able to still honor the relationship and to be able to close the relationship in a way that feels really meaningful, right? So what could it look like to be able to share reflections of that relationship and the ways in which you've seen them grow over the course of working together, and being able to write a handwritten note around how excited you are to continue to witness their growth, how much of a joy it's been in us working together, and being able to communicate that level of appreciation, gratitude at the end of a relationship, right? And then I think about, even when we formally close and sunset the relationship, what are the ways that you can still continue to acknowledge the person when it comes to special occasions, right? So whether that's birthdays, whether it's anniversaries, whether there is some significant life milestone in that particular client, what does it look like to be able to send notes, little gifts, or just be able to touch base with that client every year when it's their principal anniversary, right? If you were coaching a principal and you know that they were announced on June 1st as principal of their building, every June 1st moving forward, even after they're no longer a client, you could still be acknowledging their principal anniversary. Things like that is what builds a thoughtful relationship. And it keeps you top of mind, because even if they made the decision not to renew right now, they might spin the block, right? And what sets them up to be able to spin the block, it's how you end. Those are a couple of thoughts and strategies when it comes to creating a thoughtful, high ticket experience. Because if we're going to be charging high ticket, the experience needs to align with it too. And again, this is for B2B and B2C, because I think some of us just assume corporations, they got the money, and so it's nothing for them to drop 6 figures, so we don't need to be thoughtful of the experience. This is what will set you apart from other vendors, other partners, is these small, thoughtful touches with the client. So if you have found this episode to be helpful, I want you to share it with a friend and let me know in the comments your thoughts and reactions reactions to this episode. And while you're at it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We drop episodes every single week, and I do not want you to miss out on the powerful conversations we're having here on the Seven Figure Educator podcast. This is it for today's episode, and I'll see you back here next week on the next one. Bye, y'all.